Going without sleep is far more than just feeling tired or groggy. It is a meticulously documented 7-day descent into a state of neurological collapse that can, quite literally, unravel the fabric of the mind. This isn't about missing a few hours of sleep, nor is it about a single, caffeine-fueled all-nighter. This is about 7 full consecutive days without any sleep whatsoever. The reason this process is so devastating reveals something profoundly terrifying and equally fascinating about how the simple act of sleeping fundamentally rebuilds the brain from the inside out, every single night. What follows is the exact neuroscience of what happens when the brain is systematically denied this critical, life-sustaining function, and how this deprivation can rapidly progress from simple fatigue to irreversible cellular death and a complete, terrifying break from reality itself. This is the biological story of a mind coming undone. To comprehend why a total and prolonged lack of sleep is so uniquely destructive, one must first establish a baseline of what the brain is supposed to do every night. The brain's complex operations can be visualized as being managed by 2 distinct yet interconnected teams, a CEO and a cleaning crew. The CEO of the brain is the prefrontal cortex. This highly evolved, sophisticated inhibitory system is located right behind the forehead. It is in charge of executive functions, complex judgment, rational decision-making, long-term planning, and, most critically, emotional control. The prefrontal cortex is the voice of reason that keeps a person rational, measured, and socially appropriate. The cleaning crew is a remarkable network known as the glymphatic system. This system is largely inactive during waking hours, but upon entering the deep, restorative stages of sleep, it kicks into high gear. Its primary job is to meticulously flush out the toxic metabolic waste and byproducts that naturally build up in and around neurons throughout the day. In a healthy, well-rested brain, these 2 systems operate in perfect harmony. The CEO is sharp, focused, and in complete control during the day, and at night, the cleaning crew comes in to ensure the entire neural workspace is pristine and fully functional for the next day of operations. But a week of total sleep deprivation doesn't just disrupt this process, it completely destroys this essential partnership, leaving the brain in a state of chaos and decay. After just 24 hours of being continuously awake, it's as if the CEO has abruptly abandoned its post. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of judgment, begins to stumble badly. Its ability to regulate emotions and impulses is one of the first things to go. A person becomes noticeably more irritable, emotionally volatile, and their capacity to handle even minor frustrations plummets. The ability to focus on any single task takes a catastrophic nosedive. The brain, desperate to stay online but failing, starts to force emergency shutdowns known as microsleeps. These are entirely involuntary, 5 to 10-second lapses where parts of the brain simply go offline without consent. One could be talking, driving, or reading, and for a brief moment, brain activity will mirror that of a sleeping person. The individual won't even realize it happened until they find themselves confused, having missed a piece of a conversation or a turn in the road. This is also when a serious memory crisis begins to unfold. The hippocampus, the brain's central hub for encoding new experiences into long-term memories, becomes severely impaired. Without the consolidation process that happens during sleep, new information has nowhere to go. It's like trying to write crucial data in wet cement that never gets a chance to harden. The memories of the day remain fragile, unconsolidated, and are likely to be lost forever. After just 2 days, the brain's fundamental communication networks are already starting to fray and misfire. At the 72-hour mark, a significant and dangerous threshold is crossed. The previously clear line separating the internal world from the external, objective world begins to blur and dissolve. This is a critical tipping point from which it becomes much harder to return. The brain, so profoundly starved of the restorative and dream-generating processes of REM sleep, may start to generate its own reality while awake. This is where hallucinations typically begin. At first, they are subtle and easy to dismiss. Fleeting movement in the peripheral vision, faint, indistinct sounds, or static in the air. But as the hours grind on, these can rapidly evolve into complex, vivid, and often disturbing hallucinations. The sensory cortices, which process sight and sound, are beginning to misfire chaotically, creating perceptions out of thin air. This is no longer just a matter of feeling tired. The brain's fundamental ability to test reality is failing. Pushing deeper into days 4 and 5, a person enters a state of severe cognitive collapse that neurologists have compared to acute psychosis. Simple, linear logic feels utterly impossible. Thoughts become so disorganized and jumbled that forming a single complete sentence becomes a struggle. This terrifying stage is exemplified by extreme documented cases, like that of Randy Gardner. In 1964, as a high school student, he stayed awake for 11 days for a science fair project. Documented reports from researchers and medical staff show that by the later stages, he was experiencing profound paranoia, delusions, and complex hallucination, proving that a mind deprived of its nightly maintenance will eventually and inevitably break from reality. The reason this mental and physical breakdown is so complete and catastrophic comes down to a crucial biological system that only works effectively during the deepest stages of sleep: the glymphatic system. This is the brain's dedicated waste clearance crew, a microscopic network of channels that runs alongside blood vessels. During deep sleep, brain cells actually shrink, widening the space between them and allowing cerebrospinal fluid to be pumped through, actively flushing out the toxic proteins and metabolic waste that accumulate between neurons while awake. One of the most dangerous of these toxins is a protein called beta-amyloid, the exact same protein that clumps together to form the sticky, destructive plaques found in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. When sleep doesn't occur, this essential cleaning process is completely shut down. The channels remain narrow, the flushing mechanism is inactive, and the toxins are left to accumulate. This means that proteins like beta-amyloid are left to build up, bathing delicate neurons in a poisonous sludge that directly impairs their function and communication. This isn't just an uncomfortable feeling. It's a fundamental failure of the brain's ability to clean, repair, and maintain itself. The sustained buildup of these toxins may dramatically increase the long-term risk for devastating neurodegenerative diseases. After 6 to 7 consecutive days without sleep, the absolute limit of human endurance is reached. Cognitive functions are in ruins, and the very sense of self begins to fragment and disintegrate. At this stage, a person might enter a terrifying state known as depersonalization, feeling as though they are watching their own life from outside their body, a detached observer of their own actions. The connection between mind and physical form feels severed. But here, in this final stretch, the most frightening damage of all may begin. Recent research has identified a crucial neuroprotective protein called pleiotrophin, or PTN, which plays a vital role in the health and survival of brain cells. Scientists have discovered that the levels of this protein drop dramatically, almost to zero, during prolonged sleep deprivation. They have linked the loss of this protective protein to the actual death of neurons, a process known as apoptosis, or programmed cell death. This neuronal death appears to be particularly concentrated in the hippocampus, the memory and emotional regulation center. This is the critical turning point. This is no longer just temporary impairment or functional disruption. This is irreversible physical brain damage. The brain isn't just failing to function properly anymore. Parts of it are literally starting to die off permanently. If a person somehow makes it through this 7-day neurological nightmare, can their brain actually recover fully? The answer is a deeply cautionary yes, but. The good news is that for short-term, acute sleep deprivation, say 1 or 2 sleepless nights, the brain demonstrates remarkable resilience. After a couple of nights of good, long, restorative sleep, many cognitive functions like focus and reaction time can return to their normal baseline. However, after a full week of this kind of system-wide failure, it's a completely different story. While the exhausted individual will eventually fall into a deep, prolonged sleep, often for 14 hours or more, some of the damage is not so easy to undo. One study examining subjects after extended sleep loss found that even after a full week of unrestricted recovery sleep, not all cognitive performance measures return to their original pre-deprivation baseline. The brain's executive functions, in particular, showed lingering deficits. And what about the physical damage? The alarming buildup of toxins like beta-amyloid isn't completely washed away in a single night of recovery sleep. It's a cumulative burden that may contribute to significantly higher long-term disease risk. And, most sobering of all, the neuronal death linked to the loss of protective proteins like PTN is, by its very nature, permanent. Those lost brain cells cannot be regrown. The damage is done. The harrowing journey from 1 to 7 days without sleep is a predictable descent from a highly functional mind to a fragmented, psychotic, and physically damaged one. This progression isn't a moral failing, a lack of discipline, or a sign of personal weakness. This is pure, unadulterated neurochemistry. It is a biological inevitability. When modern culture relentlessly treats sleep as a negotiable luxury, a sign of laziness, or a debt that can simply be paid back on the weekend, it dangerously ignores a fundamental biological reality. The brain has been structured over millions of years of evolution to absolutely require sleep for its maintenance and survival. Attempting to deny it, that necessity isn't a matter of willpower, it's a matter of overriding an essential, non-negotiable maintenance cycle that is as critical to survival as breathing or drinking water. The societal stigma around rest and the constant glorification of hustle is profoundly dangerous. It encourages people to compromise this core biological function, leading them to believe that the only consequence is feeling a bit tired. As the science clearly shows, the consequences are far more severe, insidious, and potentially permanent. Here is the critical information to remember from this neurological journey. Sleep deprivation immediately attacks the prefrontal cortex, the brain's CEO, crippling judgment, emotional control, and rational decision-making within the first 24 hours. After 72 hours without sleep, the brain can begin to generate its own reality, producing complex hallucinations as the ability to distinguish internal thoughts from the external world completely breaks down. Total sleep deprivation prevents the glymphatic system, the brain's cleaning crew, from clearing toxic proteins like beta amyloid. This buildup is directly linked to an increased long-term risk for neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia. At its most extreme, after 6 or 7 days, severe sleep deprivation can lead to the death of irreplaceable neurons, causing potentially irreversible brain damage, especially in memory centers. So tonight, and every night, do your brain the single most important favor you can. Go to sleep. If you enjoyed this video, check out the other videos in our health series.